Most people don't leave relationships when they should. They stay. They overthink. They try to fix things that were already broken long ago. They convince themselves that time will change everything, that effort will bring back what's missing, that love alone is enough to hold it all together. But here's the truth most people avoid. Staying is not always strength. Sometimes it's fear. And that's exactly where the Sigma male moves differently. A Sigma male doesn't wait until everything collapses to make a decision. He notices the small shifts, the change in energy, the lack of effort, the way respect slowly fades without being said out loud. While others ignore these signs, hoping things will magically improve, he pays attention. Not emotionally, but clearly. Because for him, a relationship is not about attachment, it's about alignment. The moment something feels forced, one-sided, or no longer real, he doesn't try to convince himself otherwise. He doesn't beg for attention, he doesn't chase clarity, and he doesn't stay just to avoid being alone. Instead, he steps back, quietly, without drama. And that's what confuses people. From the outside, it looks like he didn't care, like he gave up too easily, like he was never fully invested. But the truth is the opposite. He saw everything clearly and chose not to lie to himself. Because a Sigma male understands something most people learn too late. If you have to force a connection, it's already broken. So when he walks away, it's not because he feels nothing. It's because he refuses to stay where something real no longer exists. And once you understand that, you start to question everything. Not why he leaves, but why most people stay. Sigma male values self-respect over attachment. Most people enter relationships looking for connection, validation, and a sense of belonging. And because of that, they often tolerate things they shouldn't. They ignore disrespect, accept less effort, and stay longer than they should just to avoid losing the connection. But a Sigma male moves differently. For him, self-respect is not optional. It's the foundation of everything. He doesn't measure the value of a relationship by how long it lasts, but by how it feels. If something starts to take away from his peace, his clarity, or his sense of self, he doesn't ignore it. He pays attention. Because he understands something most people don't realize early enough. Once you start sacrificing your self-respect to keep someone, you've already lost more than the relationship itself. That's why he doesn't chase validation or beg for attention. If respect fades, he doesn't try to force it back. He doesn't argue to be understood or prove his worth. Instead, he steps back and observes. And if the pattern continues, he makes a decision. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Walking away is not about ego for him. It's about standards. He knows that staying in a situation where he is not valued will slowly damage his mindset, his confidence, and his identity. And that cost is too high. So even if he feels something, even if there was a connection, he chooses himself first. He walks away when effort becomes one-sided. At the beginning of most relationships, effort feels natural. Both people show interest, communicate, and invest energy into building something real. But over time, things can shift. One person starts giving more, trying more, caring more, while the other slowly pulls back. And this is where most people make a mistake. They notice it, but they ignore it. A Sigma male doesn't. He pays attention to effort the same way he pays attention to words and actions. If he's the only one initiating conversations, the only one trying to fix problems, or the only one showing consistency, he doesn't pretend it's normal. Because for him, effort is not something you should have to beg for. It should be mutual. He doesn't chase someone who is slowly losing interest. He doesn't try to prove his value to someone who should already see it. And most importantly, he doesn't lower his standards just to keep a connection alive. Instead, he steps back. Not immediately, not impulsively, but consciously. He observes the pattern. He gives space. He watches if the energy comes back naturally. And if it doesn't, that's his answer. That's when he walks away. Not because he didn't care, but because he understands that a one-sided relationship is not sustainable. It drains your energy, lowers your self-worth, and creates frustration over time. And a Sigma male would rather leave early than stay and lose himself trying to carry something alone. He sees red flags early. Most people don't leave when they see red flags. They notice them, but they explain them away. Maybe it's just a bad day. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe things will change. And slowly, those small signs turn into patterns that become harder to escape. But a Sigma male doesn't ignore what he sees. From the beginning, he pays attention to behavior, not just words. He listens, observes, and reads between the lines. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being aware. He notices inconsistency, lack of respect, emotional instability, or anything that feels off. And instead of brushing it aside, he takes it seriously. Because he understands something most people learn too late. Red flags don't disappear, they grow. A Sigma male doesn't wait for a situation to become toxic before he reacts. He doesn't need a dramatic ending or a big mistake to justify leaving. If he sees patterns that don't align with his values, he starts creating distance early. He doesn't argue about it. He doesn't try to fix someone who doesn't want to change. And he definitely doesn't stay hoping that potential will turn into reality. Instead, he trusts his perception. Even if everything looks okay on the surface, if something feels wrong, he listens to that instinct. Because he knows that ignoring early signs always leads to bigger problems later. So when he walks away, it may seem sudden. But for him, the decision started long before. He is comfortable being alone. One of the biggest reasons most people stay in the wrong relationships is simple. They're afraid of being alone. Not just physically alone, but emotionally, without someone to talk to, without constant attention, without that sense of connection. And because of that fear, they tolerate situations that slowly drain them. A Sigma male doesn't have that fear. He's already comfortable with his own company. He knows how to sit in silence without needing distraction, how to think without noise, and how to exist without depending on someone else's presence. For him, being alone is not emptiness, it's clarity. That's what gives him an advantage. Because when you're not afraid of being alone, you don't stay where you're not valued. You don't accept less just to keep someone around. You don't hold on to something that doesn't feel right just to avoid silence. Instead, you choose peace over attachment. A Sigma male sees relationships as an addition to his life, not a necessity. If it's real, balanced and aligned, he stays. If it becomes confusing, draining or one-sided, he doesn't panic. He doesn't rush to fix it just to keep the connection alive. He steps away. Not because he doesn't care, but because he knows he'll be fine either way. And that mindset changes everything. It removes desperation, eliminates fear-based decisions, and allows him to move with clarity instead of emotion. Because for him, loneliness is temporary. But losing, he chooses peace over drama. Most relationships don't end because of one big mistake. They end because of constant tension, misunderstandings, and unnecessary drama that slowly builds over time. Arguments that repeat, emotions that escalate, problems that never really get solved. And for many people, this becomes normal. They get used to chaos, to emotional ups and downs, to relationships that feel more stressful than peaceful. But a Sigma male doesn't accept that as normal. He values peace more than intensity. He doesn't need constant excitement, emotional highs, or dramatic moments to feel connected. What he looks for is stability, clear communication, mutual respect, and a sense of calm that allows both people to grow without pressure. When that peace disappears, he notices. If every conversation turns into conflict, if small issues become big arguments, or if the relationship starts to feel like a constant emotional battle, he doesn't stay to fight endlessly. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard, and he doesn't waste energy trying to win arguments that lead nowhere. Instead, he steps back, because he understands that you can't build something real in a constant state of chaos. And more importantly, he knows that protecting his mental peace is more important than proving a point. So rather than staying and getting pulled into drama, he chooses distance, quietly, without unnecessary conflict. Not because he's avoiding the problem, but because he refuses to become part of it. For him, peace is not a luxury, it's a standard. Yourself in the wrong relationship can last much longer. At the end of the day, the Sigma male doesn't walk away because he's cold. He walks away because he understands his worth. He knows that not every connection is meant to last, and not every relationship deserves his energy. Instead of forcing things, he chooses clarity. Instead of chasing, he chooses peace. And instead of losing himself trying to make something work, he chooses to stay true to who he is. That's the real difference. If this made you see relationships differently, make sure to subscribe for more content on mindset and psychology. Now tell me, would you stay or would you walk away?